All right, we're going to break down a really simple but powerful way to build an emergency plan for your animals. And trust me, when a disaster hits, being prepared isn't just a good idea, it can literally make all the difference.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we'll get into why this is so critical. Then, we'll walk through 3 essential steps: figuring out your risks, actually getting prepared, and then knowing your options when things go sideways. And we'll wrap up by talking about how you can get started on your plan, like today.
Okay, first things first, we need to lay down a really critical foundation here. And look, this isn't just about following a rule. It's about a fundamental shift in how you think, especially if you have animals in an area that could face an emergency.
I mean, just look at this statement from the official Yukon resources. It doesn't get much clearer than that, does it? Emergency services are and have to be focused on people. They just don't have the ability to help with pets or livestock. So the hard truth here is that you absolutely cannot assume someone else is coming to rescue your animals. That's on you.
And you know, this isn't just some vague, high-level policy. It's written right into local community plans. This example from Mount Lorne really drives the point home. It all comes down to this: the safety of your animals, whether they're pets, livestock, whatever, it rests squarely on your shoulders.
So, if it's all on you, where do you even begin? Well, that brings us to step 1. It's all about understanding the specific dangers you and your animals are facing. You can't just download some generic plan from the internet. That's not going to cut it. This has to be tailored to your actual situation, your property, your reality.
And it all kicks off with this one fundamental question: what's most likely to happen where you are? Is your biggest threat a wildfire? Is it flooding from a nearby river? Or maybe a crazy blizzard? Because whatever your answer is, that's what's going to shape every single decision you make in your plan.
Now, this checklist right here from the Yukon's Guide is an awesome starting point. It's got the big ones you'd expect, right? Wildfires, floods, storms. But what I think is so smart about this list is that it includes things you might not think of, like a disease outbreak, or even the primary caretaker getting sick or injured. I mean, that can be just as much of an emergency, can't it?
All right, so you've figured out your risks. Now what? Well, now we move to step 2, getting prepared. This is where you move from thinking to doing. It's all about concrete, actionable steps. This is where your plan really starts to take shape and become real. And check this out, because I think this is so important. The very first steps on the checklist aren't about stockpiling feed or buying equipment. Nope, it's all about communication and information. It's about actually creating the plan, having both digital and paper copies handy, and, this is key, making sure other people have it, like your local fire department and your emergency contacts.
Yeah, and that's because being prepared isn't something you do once and then forget about. It's a year-round cycle. I love this slide because it shows how you can build these little preparedness tasks right into your normal seasonal work. You know, mowing grass away from buildings in the fall, checking for snow load in the winter, inspecting fences in the spring. It just becomes part of the routine.
And this really brings it all together. Your actions have to directly counter your biggest risks. So, if your biggest worry is wildfire, you're going to be creating fire breaks and moving hay bales. But if flooding is the main threat, well, then you're thinking about dikes, ditches, and moving feed to higher ground. It's all about matching the preparation to the problem. Okay, so all of this preparation, it's all leading up to this moment, the most critical part of your plan. This is step 3, knowing your options. This is about what you do when the disaster is no longer a what if, it's happening now. And these are decisions you absolutely have to make ahead of time, not when you're in the middle of a crisis.
And having these 4 critical options laid out like this, honestly, it's a total game changer. Think about it. It takes the guesswork out of a super high-stress situation. You're not trying to figure out what to do from scratch, you just follow your plan. It gives you a clear, logical path to follow, from keeping them here all the way to your last resort.
But look, for those first 3 options to even be possible, you have to have everything ready to go before the emergency. We're talking about having a secured building and at least 72 hours of food and water if you keep them on site, or having a safe spot picked out on your property and the people and gear to move them fast. And if you have to evacuate completely, well, you better have a place to go already arranged and your transportation good to go. These are the details that matter.
And then there's the 4th option. And let's be honest, this is the hardest part of any plan to even think about. Nobody wants to be in this position. But it's a necessary thing to consider. Because if your animals are badly hurt, or if there's just no other way to save them, the most humane and responsible thing you can do is prevent further suffering. It's the absolute last resort, but it has to be in the plan.
Okay, so we've covered the why, that this is your responsibility. And we've covered the how, the 3 big steps of assessing risk, getting prepared, and knowing your options. So now let's talk about the single most important part of all of this, actually doing it, taking action.
And here's the best part. You are not starting from scratch. There are amazing, detailed guides out there to walk you through this whole process, just like the one from the Yukon government that we've been using as a framework. Seriously, you can get started right now. Just pull out your phone and scan the code on the screen. Look, having a plan is absolutely the most critical step you can take. So, what's the very first thing you're going to do today to get started? Are you going to sit down and identify your biggest risk? Maybe call a neighbor to talk about being an emergency location for each other? Or maybe just start by downloading that guide. It doesn't matter how small the step is. The most important thing is that you start. So, what's your first step going to be?